Vighnanas Avishta Purana Echai Gosai Taui Tarata Nasavara Padarinu Tora Panchagra Adira Sharana Se Bhakta Sadeva Anande Bola Hari Praja Guru Vaishnava Padam Bhajai Uma Sri Guru Vaishnava Padam Kariha Sankirtanto He Jagatamata Adi Bharaya Krishna Jagavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Hare
It's short and very nice. It's a 6-minute recording. We'll go through the words, starting with the main theme. It's chanting the names, obeisances to Krishna with being called by different names. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govindaram Srimadu Sudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. besides they rhyme, they're just calling principal names of Krishna. That's the way of the followers of Lord Chaitanya, and a different way of calling Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaita, with his wife Sita, Hari, Guru Vaishnavas, Bhagavad Gita. There it translates says Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Interesting. But naturally, because of his close association with the six Goswamis by name, and we've often heard the sequence, Sri Rup Sri Sanatan, Bhatta Raghunath, Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath. So by name, there they are. And then his glorification. I bow to the feet of these six Goswamis. By their grace, our obstacles can be destroyed. And the other translation I'm used to seeing is its spiritual desires. All our spiritual desires are fulfilled. So that's good. Obstacles destroyed, spiritual desires fulfilled. That's the gift that they give. And being acquainted with them and attached to them. Just a little sharing. One of the principal reasons for choosing this topic was during this virtual Vrindavan Yatra, I spoke about the places around Radhakund, Shamakund, and Bhakti Chaitanya Swami chose to speak about several of the six Goswamis. It was no problem. There was no redundancy. It's just different persons speaking. And then a couple of questions came. Why don't we hear more about the six Goswamis? And it would seem like we should. And there are ways to, because their appearance days come in our Vaishnava calendar. And if we're attentive to who they are and how important it is, like this, all spiritual desires can be fulfilled, all obstacles can be destroyed by their grace. And they have a very eager willingness to give, because there they were. It's similar to, different from, but similar to Prabhupada's life. He could have just stayed in Vrindavan, but he sacrificed to come to the West and give us Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada was following the mood of the six Goswamis, although they stayed in Vrindavan. They were prepared. They were following instructions, specific instructions of Lord Chaitanya to write, and empowerment of Lord Chaitanya to do so, and empowerment of Lord Chaitanya to understand everything that he taught, which was everything that in that discussion, the wonderful discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya. Specifically, the Goswamis were empowered to understand it and to write it. And the purpose of their writing it was to create a clear understanding of our sampradaya, because this is the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, and the Gaudiya Sampradaya has to have its specific teachings and explanations of everything. Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana, everything in full. And the Goswamis were assigned specifically to Lord Chaitanya to do that. It's described that when he sent Gopal Bhatta to Vrindavan, he was very young. You know the story. We narrated it, but he was 8 years old when Lord Chaitanya came to visit Sri Rangam and stay for 4 months. And he was told by by Lord Chaitanya to stay with his parents until they were ready to let him go, or until they passed from this world. So he stayed for something like 28, 30 years, something like that. I can't remember. But he knew Lord Chaitanya's teachings because he had heard it for 4 months, every day, for 4 months. So he was given the assignment when he finally reached Vrindavan. He was told, when you say it's possible, you take shelter of Rupa Sanatan. And then Rupa and Sanatan wrote a letter to Lord Chaitanya. He came, he made it. And Lord Chaitanya wrote back, giving him the instruction, you just assist Rupa and Sanatan. So he did. And he did other things, but that was his principal instruction. So Rupa and Sanatan were the lead, and the others were assisting, Jiva being the principal writing personality amongst the rest of the Goswamis. And then making it available to the world because it's Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Then his life, as well as his teachings, were all incorporated in Chaitanya Bhagavad, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Very important literature. Very important literature. I mean, it's very elevated literature, and it's also very important literature. You know, we say undergraduate, graduate, postgraduate. Postgraduate looks like, wow, I'm still at the graduate level or undergraduate level. But he, Krishnadas, was a contemporary of Jiva, and he knew all these teachings, and he included it in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was like a refinement. It was pieces and stitched together the parts of each of the writings of the Goswamis, and in a storytelling fashion. So it was readable for persons that like stories and, kind of just move quickly when it comes to the philosophy. He laced it very, very wonderfully. So it's foundational literature is the point. And the Goswamis are establishing that foundation, and we'll hear when we hear the Sadgoswami Astakam. They had a very clear vision, and the followers of them had a very clear vision what their vision was, and they were assisting them in receiving and spreading the teachings, because that's Lord Chaitanya, and that's the followers of Lord Chaitanya, spread his teachings. But you have to know the teachings. So through these teachings, it's not just text knowledge, but realized knowledge through the 6 Goswamis. By their grace, obstacles destroyed, all desires fulfilled. I'm the servant of these 6 Goswamis. The dust of their lotus feet is my 5-fold subsistence. So if there are 5 types of food, Prabhupada's explanation, chewed, licked up, drunk, and swallowed. That sounds like it's 4. 5-fold substance. It's his life. Narottam Das Thakur. And to be a servant of their lotus feet and to reside in the company of devotees, this is my aspiration, birth after birth. One more. When these 6 Goswamis lived in Braja, they revealed the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash. So they wrote literature and they revealed the places of pastimes. And not only the places of pastimes, but the pastimes. There's a very, they're not the only ones that did it, but they did it. Meaning, Others subsequent to them, particularly Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, did it. He did the same. He wrote pastimes. There's one text that he wrote that's describing a pastime of Radha and Krishna at Radha Kund. And without the details of that pastime, because we're focusing on the 6 Goswamis, he puts at the very end, on such and such a day, in the month of such and such, in the year such and such, I, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, am writing this literature by the side of Radhakund. So they were actually experiencing the pastimes that they were describing in their literature. Now, they didn't have to do that any more than Prabhupada had to come to America, other than the order of his spiritual master to go to the West. That's what propelled him. And his love for the Goswamis and his love for Bhakti Siddhanta, etc. The love for the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And in the Sadgoswami Astakam, the mission is very clear. Very clear. So, 2 more verses. Ananda Bolohari Bhaja Vrindavan. In ecstasy, sing the name of Lord Hari and worship Vrindavan, joyfully fixing your mind upon the lotus feet of the bona fide spiritual master and the pure devotees. Then finally, the lotus feet of my Guru and the Vaishnavas are my aspiration. Narottam Das thus sings Hari Nama Sankirtan. So it's clear. He's a follower of Lord Chaitanya, and thus he's glorifying Nam Sankirtan. And as a follower of Lord Chaitanya, he's attached to the 6 Goswamis, because they're deliverers of his mercy. Removal of obstacles and granting the fulfillment of all spiritual desires. They're the instrument of Lord Chaitanya. And he wants their association. And those that have such affinity for them, birth after birth. And our founder Acharya was one such person. We'll go to the next song, and then comes the refrain again. We'll go to the next song, the Sadgoswami Astakam, but I'm going to do it a little, Namapriya sent to me a recording of Radhika Raman speaking on Prabhupada singing this song, the Sadgoswami Astakam. And I really recommend that you view it at least once, if not more than once, because I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, he is, but it's not just Sanskrit scholarship. It's very clear, he's entered very deeply into the mood and the message of that, the way that Prabhupada sang that song. And the way he sang that song was just amazing. Have you heard? If anyone, I can play a little bit, because it's in my computer. But Namapriya, send it out to whoever, however you do that. And please listen. It's his description is very nice. I didn't know this until I heard this recording the first time, and then the second time. Right in Prabhupada's recording of the Sadgoswami Astakam, he only sings 4 of the 8 verses. And right in the middle, he sings another verse that's not even Sadgoswami Astakam. It's a verse from the Bhagavatam that comes just after the verse that's describing Lord Chaitanya as the Yuga avatar for the age of Kali. And 2 or 3 verses after that is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by the Navyogendras to King Nimi, right from the Bhagavatam, and it's right in his recording. In other words, Prabhupada poured his whole heart. And when you hear his singing, I didn't, without knowing all the Sanskrit technical points that he brought out, it's very clear. Prabhupada's heart is into this, the meditation and the song itself. It's very moving. See if I can get it. It does. There's no video. It's just the audio, and you'll recognize it as soon as you hear the song. Okay, I don't know which one it is. I think it's this one.
Krishna Kirtana Gadana
It's an 18-minute recording. That was 2 minutes. But you see, it goes through the song. So I'm not going to try to replicate. I do encourage you to hear this recording or the video of Radhika Raman. Here we go. Here's the Sadgoswami Astakam. Here's a murti of the author, Srinivasacharya. And the murti of Srinivasacharya is at his place in Yajigram. Very nice place, very, very serene place. So the first two verses, this is Agni Dev singing. Well, that you'll just hear Agni Dev sing. You'll have to sing along with him or something because it's not responsive. It would take too long.
Radha Krishna Radha Govinda Bhagwana Mata Di Gauri Gandhi Vipassana Nahudado Jiva Goswami.
I think what I'm going to do is not go through everything, but take it in pieces, if that's okay. And I don't know how it's going to work for the sound, but that's okay. Krishnot Kirtana. Let's see. Krishnot. It's not Krishna Kirtan, but it's Krishna Ut Kirtan. And this much I know. Ut means loud, or calling, or giving the message widely, which is the mood of our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada also. And the Premamritam Ambolidi, that's Prema Amrita Amba Niti. It's an ocean of Amrita. They created by this Krishna Kirtan. Dira Adira. Anyone that's heard Prabhupada speak about the Goswamis, they know these lines because he would say them over and over again. Dira Adira. Janapriya. He was very dear to both the sober and the wicked, the trouble, the persons who were undisturbed individuals. And the reason is nirmatsaro, because they were non-envious, that Prabhupada explains. Even the wicked people had affection for the six Goswamis because they know they didn't want anything from them. They had no interest in anything that they had. They were non-envious. And so they were truly affectionate to everybody. And it was so strong that it's described in Bhakti Ratnakara. You familiar with Bhakti Ratnakara? Bhakti Ratnakara is a book that was written after Lord Chaitanya had left. It was written about the associates of Lord Chaitanya that carried on the Lord Chaitanya's movement after he left. Narhari Chakravarti was the author. And it gives lots of history, like lots of history about people that weren't even mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Like one of those persons not mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita was Gopal Bhatta, because he asked, please don't put my name in the book, so he didn't. So what do we know about Gopal Bhatta is from Bhakti Ratnakara. So in this I was going to use that as a reference. Dira Dira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Projito. It just went away. Something I was going to say in reference from that. What was the topic I was speaking just before I went on the detour of what Bhakti Ratnakara is? Can anybody remember?
envious. That's why everybody knows.
Yeah, that was non-envious. Yeah, something that was the topic. Let me see if I can recall. It went away. Maybe it'll come back. My apology. Um, had something to do with the feature of being non-envious. Maybe if I speak a little bit about non-enviousness, it'll come.
Prabhupada will often quote it. Prabhupada will often quote in his lecture, Dhira and Adhira.
Yeah. Oh well, we'll go on. Sri Chaitanya Kripa Baro Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavaham Tarako. I was saying that, Prabhupada was in the mood. This isn't the point, but Prabhupada was in the mood that the six Goswamis were in. As Srinivas and Narottam had deep affinity for the six Goswamis, Prabhupada had deep affinity for the six Goswamis. He felt, and in fact he was receiving mercy from them. There are two historical incidents that we know more about one than the other. One was when Prabhupada was in Radha Damodar, his quarters at Radha Damodar Temple, preparing to come to the West. He was feeling, as a Vaishnava will feel, inadequate to carry out this mission impossible. He knew it was mission impossible, but he was enjoined to carry out this mission. And so he had to do it. But he was feeling, I can't do it. It's amazing. It's amazing. When Prabhupada described his accepting of sannyas, his voice started to crack, and he was saying, "How can I be without my family? Because Keshava Maharaj was telling him, Bhakti Siddhanta gave you this instruction. To fulfill this instruction, you need to take sannyas. You're living a life of detachment. Take sannyas." And finally, he took sannyas. Bhakti Siddhanta came to him in his dream several times. And he said it. He was instructing me. Take sannyas, go to the West. Then he said, Rupa Goswami came to me and said, that's the celebrated message. Swamiji, go forward. You'll be successful. I guarantee I will be right with you. You got that encouragement. And in Mula Prakriti's, we used to say Mula Prakriti, but it's Mula Prakriti's book, interviewing different people from the Jiva Institute. One person would regularly come to visit Prabhupada, and Prabhupada told him a story that one evening 3 persons came, and he identified that those 3 persons were Rupa, Sanatan, and Jiva. Sanatan was taller, Rupa was forward, and Jiva was much younger in the background, and encouraging him. I mean, this is our founder Acharya. He didn't speak about that much. But he was carrying that feeling of their mission. And their mission was a mission given to them by Lord Chaitanya. So while he was feeling not capable, how elevated was Prabhupada to be able to associate with these personalities and receive their encouragement personally? How do we understand that? It wasn't like a ghost or something. It was their spiritual identity coming to give him encouragement to go forward, empowered. So, Sri Chaitanya Kripabaro, Bhuvi Bhuvo, Bharavahamtarako. They're taking the message and the mission of Lord Chaitanya as their message and their mission. Here's the translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, who are always engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and dancing. They are just like the ocean of love of God, and they are popular both with the gentle and the ruffians, because they are not envious of anyone. Whatever they do, they are all pleasing to everyone, and they're fully blessed by Lord Chaitanya, which is true. Thus, they are engaged in missionary activities. This is Prabhupada. How much inspiration and absorption did he receive from this song? And it's when you hear him singing it, it's really clear. It's moving his heart. Then another one that Prabhupada would speak about often in his lectures, Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kanipino. Now this much I remember from Radhika Raman. Vicharana means reflecting or examining or looking at from different angles. And Vicharanaika, this eka means, it's conclusive. They looked at all the scriptures very, very, very carefully, meticulously, expertly, nipuna. And then the purpose of that was Sadharma Samstapako, which is exactly what Prabhupada did. When we received the Bhaktivedanta purports, we received of course, the essence from Bhaktisiddhanta and the essence from the other Goswamis. I personally, in New York, and the Henry Street Temple, I watched from little service. I mean, I didn't have too much personal association with Prabhupada, but one of the services that was very meaningful to me was as a temple commander. I had to take responsibility for having Prabhupada's quarters guarded 24 hours a day when he was there for a week. And the most difficult place to have somebody guard was the window outside his quarters, because we were in Brooklyn, and it had already happened that somebody climbed over the cement wall and broke into the Pujari room, and the Pujari was just the other side from where Prabhupada's quarters was. We had to guard his quarters. And being a temple commander meant at that time, there's no job description. It just meant whatever has to get done, you make sure it gets done. So guarding Prabhupada's quarters was a service that had to get done. And I couldn't find somebody to guard at night, so I had to guard at night. But it was great. I watched Prabhupada's evening activities. At 9-ish, he went to the front room, which is big as the temple room on the other side of the building, and sat alone with his harmonium and sang bhajans. And then about 9:20, he went to his room, turned out the light, took rest. 11 o'clock, the light went on. $11:30. About a little less than 2 hours. Around 2 hours of sleep. and I had to stay awake. And, I went into the bathroom and came out and lit a light, turned the light on over his desk, and then spread out on his desk were these, really big, like, the kind of books that open like, they were the commentaries of our acharyas, and he ran his finger across the commentaries, this one, that one, the other one, and then the Bhaktivedanta purports every night while everybody's upstairs was conked out. He was making the sacrifice for us, just like the six Goswamis. Nana Shastra Vicharinai, Vicharinai Kandipuno, Saddharma Sang Stapako. For the benefit of everyone in the world. So he was receiving the same that they were receiving. He was following them and assisting them, just like Gopal Bhatta. Raghunath Bhatta was also given the same instruction. Associate with Rupa and Raghunath and assist them in any way you can, which is what he did. Here's the translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying, that's this vicharanai, scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. I mean, that was the position from which they wrote. Somebody in the course of these six Goswami discussions, they all have their spiritual identity in Krishna's Leela. So the question came up, when they were doing their service as followers of Lord Chaitanya, to what degree were they aware of their spiritual identity as this gopi or that manjari? Who can say? But that was the place, the mood from which they were writing. Srinivasacharya wrote the Sadgoswami Astakam, and he also wrote a prayer in glorification of his spiritual master. The prayer that he wrote in glorification of his spiritual master didn't address him by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He addressed him by his manjari name. Praying for his mercy to put, in a very humble mood, to pull him out of his, conditioning or covering and awaken his dormant spiritual desires. Same as what Narottam Das Thakur said. It can by their mercy can remove all obstacles and fulfill all spiritual desires. So who are we? We're little people. And we're so many generations after the six Goswamis. But we're, they're an ocean of mercy. Kripam Bodhini. Kripa Ambo Nadi. They're ocean of mercy. And we need mercy. Feeling ourselves attached to them, becoming familiar with them, becoming attached to them, praying to them, trying to assist them, trying to imbibe their mood of service, their mood of love, their mood of glorification, their teachings, their writings, what they get left behind, etc., etc. It behooves us. I've been saying this whole visit. I'll say it again. One of our Gaudiya principles that is appears again and again and again and again in the teachings and our writings of our acharyas, is petitioning for mercy, calling for mercy from these elevated souls, although we're unqualified, calling for the mercy of these elevated souls. It's right in Nectar Devotion. Hope against hope, Ashabandha. But it's the mood of the followers of the Goswamis. It's the mood of Lord Chaitanya, the mood of the followers of Lord Chaitanya. Become familiar with these personalities to the point where it's not just a notion. You can start to have a feeling for how merciful they are, and the gift that they're very enthusiastic to give, and help you, receive it. I'm going to move on to the next verse, because this is a verse because time is running out. This is one of the verses that Radhika Raman speaks about, because Prabhupada often spoke about it during his classes. Chaktva Turnamashesha Mandala Patishranim Sadatut Chavat. Chaktva Turnam, Ashesha means unlimited. Mandala means leaders, a circle of leaders. And they were the pati, they were the leaders amongst those leaders of very aristocratic people. And they gave it all up. Chaktva Turnamashesha Mandala Patikshanin Sada Tuchavat. Now, Tuchavat means just like you spit it out. Like, vat means like. How many people that are involved in government positions or business positions or anything of this world positions, they're interested in getting what the six Goswamis had, or what Rupa and Sanatan had at least, and Raghunath Das Goswami. Fabulous wealth. No interest. Tuchavat. Moving amongst elevated circles. Bhutva Dina Ganesha Ko Kurunaya Gopina Kantrashato. Instead, what did they take? They kept a wrapper. That's the language that's used in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Just a cloth covering their shoulder, and gopins, and that's it. From this aristocratic position, they gave up everything. It was when we were discussing Rupa Goswami. How much wealth did they have? Like vast wealth. Raghunath had vast wealth. They also had vast wealth. He put 10,000 gold coins in the care of 10,000 gold coins in the care of a grocer for Sanatana Goswami's getaway, and the rest of the wealth filled up 2 boatloads of gold coins, and they gave it all away for residents in Vrindavan under the care of Lord Chaitanya, wearing a quilt, just like you see in it's something over their shoulder, and loincloth. Very simple. But what they entered into was Gopi Bhava, Rasa, Ambudhi, Lahari Kalola Magnao Muhur. So I encourage you, listen to Revati Radhika Raman, because he gives the Sanskrit explanation of these terms that I'm not capable of giving like he does. But they immerse themselves in the mood of the gopis, They were tasting it. They were writing literature corresponding to it, in completely lined up with Lord Chaitanya's teachings from the Bhagavatam. They all loved the Bhagavatam. They all loved the Bhagavatam. The most prolific of all the Goswamis was Jiva Goswami. And I used to say he wrote 3 commentaries, and actually he wrote 5 on the Srimad Bhagavatam, just different ways of writing commentary. He did what Prabhupada did, which was a verse-by-verse commentary on the Bhagavatam called Krama Sandarbha. It wasn't all the verses, but many of the verses. Then, of course, the Sandarbhas, which is a topic-by-topic, vast work, commentary on the Bhagavatam. He wrote Gopal Champu, which is Krishna's, the 10th canto, Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, Krishna's pastimes outside Vrindavan. He wrote commentaries. Sanatana Goswami had written commentaries on the entire 12 cantos. He was asked to proofread it. So while proofreading, he wrote a commentary on Sanatana Goswami's commentary on the Bhagavatam. They love the Bhagavatam. They love the Bhagavatam. And they're revealing truths about the Bhagavatam that is meant for us. Because the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. The teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam are the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It's seamless. And so the more we can become familiar with the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially in light of what the 6 Goswamis have written about the Bhagavatam, we get closer to Lord Chaitanya's mood and his message. And the mood was this one: giving, widely giving the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and entering into the mood of the gopis. You become close to the 6 Goswamis, that's what's going to happen. If you don't want it, don't go there. If you want it, go there. Here's the translation of that verse. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis who kicked off all association of aristocracy as insignificant in order to deliver the poor conditioned souls. They accepted loincloths, treating themselves as mendicants. But they are always merged in the ecstatic ocean of the gopis' love for Krishna and bathe always and repeatedly in the waves of that ocean. Now, I have a flight tomorrow morning, so I think what I'm going to do is not try to cover more, because we could be here for quite a while to cover everything. But I'll encourage you. I'll go to the last, because that's also when Prabhupada sings this song, that's what he does. He goes to the last one. There we go. Hey Radhe Vrajadevi Ke Chalalite. We all know this one, right? Hey Nandasuno Kuta. Shri Govardhana Kalpapada Patale Kalindivane Kuta. The mood of the Goswamis is not, I know all about Krishna, I've seen Krishna, etc. But the mood is the mood of separation. It's the same mood of Madhavendra Puri, the same mood of Lord Chaitanya, the same mood of the Goswamis. And that's the path that we're being encouraged to take. Where are you now? Are you on the hill of Govardhan, or are you under the tree on the bank of the Jamuna? Where are you? These were their moods in executing Krishna consciousness. Okay. So let's see if there's some discussion. It's almost 8 o'clock. Do we have a portable mic? We have a little cute microphone if somebody wants to speak something.
Maharaj, Maharaj, I had a sharing to share. I think the first 1 or 2 sessions when I saw the list of books from the Goswamis, I was kind of taken back, and it was overwhelming. Like, will I even get a chance to look at those books or even see those books? But then today you kind of answered that kind of question that even though we can't really go through all the books of Goswamis, but just by reading Srila Prabhupada's purport, because he was reviewing those
Yes.
books and then he was kind of giving the essence in his purports. I think that's something that we can do and kind of inspires me to do more now that he has kind of imbibed all the teachings of Goswamis and given to us in his purports.
I'll add to that. Two things. Prabhupada, my way of thinking of how Prabhupada presented his purports, of watching his finger going across the page of so many commentaries, and he didn't, in many cases, especially in the earlier cantos of the Bhagavatam, he didn't cite this is the reference. But when one becomes a little more familiar with the references, every sentence is a paraphrase of some reference. And then slowly, as the cantos went on, he started saying this reference, that reference, the other reference. Meaning, the audience, when he was writing, he was writing for the world. And it's a little bit like the VIHE. When they're conducting their Bhakti Shastri course, it's for the world. It's for people that maybe don't know too much about anything, but they want to take Bhakti Shastri, so it's kind of like simple. And for people that want something that's a little more rigorous, they may not be so satisfied with that. But Prabhupada gave everything, but he pablamized it. Very digestible. Or little babies need pablum because it's easy to digest. So it's all there. And we read Prabhupada's books, it's all there. And then gradually, then second point is, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I mentioned this, but I'll say it again. Krishnadas Kaviraj goes through sections of the writings of the Goswamis and becomes verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's kind of like, you get a big puzzle and the pieces are all spread all over the floor, and he puts this puzzle piece together with that puzzle piece together with that puzzle piece, and it starts to make a picture. The narration is there, Lord Chaitanya's teaching is there, but then there's the writings of the Goswamis over here and the writings of the Goswamis over there, something from Pradyavali, something from Hansadutta, something from this, something from that, and stitches something from the Sandarbhas, and stitches it all together so that it gets a bit more comprehensive picture of the writings of the Goswamis. So after you become more familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam, then going on to Chaitanya Charitamrita, you'll start to get a picture of the writings of the Goswamis. And then, in time, you'll probably have a particular liking for this style or that style of writing or something like that, and read something further. Become familiar with Prabhupada's books, because it's a platform for diving more deeply. And when you dive more deeply, you'll start to realize there's no bottom to this ocean. There's a place in the Samadhi Mandir of Sanatana Goswami is behind and to the side of the Madan Mohan temple in Vrindavan. And when you go there, you'll see a whole bunch of other samadhis. And if you go with a guide, they'll point out to you, way over there in the corner is what's called the Grantha Samadhi. Because Jiva Goswami took it upon himself to put some of the writings of the Goswamis in Samadhi, because worldly people wouldn't be able to understand it. So they wrote it, and he put the scriptures in Samadhi. They're very, very high, and with full realization. So, anything anyone want to discuss? Yeah.
I just want to appreciate this entire seminar, this, going over the six Goswamis and the in-depth and their mood, and it's just been very nourishing. And also, like something I said, that challenge that I've been now like really understanding how important it is, and really humility being really the foundation for everything. I think that's the key that's coming out of this. So
Good.
I really appreciate this time that you spent with us here. Thank you.
Well, one of the things that came the first day was from this Bhakti Ratnakara. And in Bhakti Ratnakara, the author says that through Haridas Thakur, Lord Chaitanya taught tolerance, and through Rupa Sanatan, he taught humility. Of course, he taught it through others also, but it's very profound. It's not ordinary. It's not, as their writings are profound, their humility is profound. And amanitvam adambitvam, in the items of knowledge, in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, those are the first two. Humility and pridelessness. Without that, how can there be knowledge? Or say it the other way, those who are proud are not able to receive or give real knowledge. So that what the Goswamis have is not ordinary knowledge and not ordinary humility. Yeah, it's a good quality.
Thank you, Maharaj. It's really wonderful to really see the translations of Sadgoswami Astakam. And more and more, when you went through it, more and more, the realization is like, it's actually very dense. When we actually sing it, it's pretty light. We don't really think about the meaning. But when we really try to understand, thank you for your all the series, so that it will give us more, I would say, help to dive more and have the feeling while we are singing this Astakam.
Well, I'll add. I'd like to try to add. In contemplating how to end up this 6-day or 6-part, now this is the 7th part, I was a little uncertain. And I became really clear just listening to Radhika Raman speak because of his Sanskrit skill. And he has apparently, from hearing what he spoke, he's apparently entered very deeply into the feeling of the song and how the feeling of the song matches Srinivasacharya's appreciation for the Goswamis, and it matches Prabhupada's mood. And you hear, I've heard that song, when I was like a baby bhakta. I heard that song hundreds of times, and the Brahma Samhita song hundreds of times, because Prabhupada made these recordings for us. But I didn't understand a lot. I mean, one of the things I could understand was the feeling, the power, the intense feeling, the mood of Prabhupada singing, besides his skill on the keyboard. But he added a number of things. So I suggest, one more time, go through his recording. It starts at, the preliminary up till starting about 20 minutes. And it's an hour and 20 minutes long. But the rest of it is just on the song. And he does a really good job explaining the message and the mood and Prabhupada. Anything else? Okay. Then we'll end here. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada Maharaj ki.
I'd like to thank the host today, Prabhupada and family, for hosting the program. Thank you so much that you were not able to attend